So I know as a small business owner earlier in my career, I was very hesitant to share any numbers for the same reasons that we've identified. If we were doing well, I didn't want them asking for raises. If we weren't doing well, I didn't want them running off, leaving my company. So I shared very little financial information. I just figured, hey, they're going to do their job no matter what. And then I began noticing that my employees were making their own financial decisions. They were buying houses, sending kids to college, buying cars, buying boats. They were making their own financial decisions. And many times I would see what they were doing and I would shake my head thinking, what are they doing? Don't they know that we're at risk of going out of business at any moment? And you're out there buying a new house? What a crazy decision that is. And then it occurred to me, well, why would they not do that? Because as far as they know, we're wildly profitable. Why would they not do that? And so it occurred to me that maybe I should begin sharing some financial information with my people. They should have some sense of how we're doing, right? So I began doing that. I began sharing some information, sales information, certain KPIs, and something very interesting happened when I did that. Some of my employees, not all, started asking me questions that I had never gotten before from an employee. Like, Tim, why do we keep the lights on in the office on the weekends when no one's here? I don't know. We've always left the lights on the weekends when no one's here. Doesn't that cost us money? Well, yeah, probably costs us a little bit. Okay, let's turn the lights off on the weekends. Tim, why are we hiring another salesperson? Couldn't we all rally together, produce more sales without incurring the expense of another salesperson? Yeah, I guess we could. If everybody kind of worked a little harder, we could create more sales without hiring another salesperson. My employees started asking questions they had never asked before as a result of seeing some financial numbers. They began thinking a little bit like me. They began thinking a little bit like a business owner because now they had access to this information they had never had before. Was I careful about the numbers I shared? Yeah, I was careful. Certainly, I didn't want to share my income. I didn't want to share other specifics. But I found that the more I shared, the smarter they got, and they were making better decisions. Not all of my employees. I had some employees who said, you know what, I'm going to work my 40, 45 hours. I'm going to give you my best. I don't need to see the numbers. But the majority of my employees, particularly my superstars, were keenly interested in how we were doing. Keenly interested in how we were doing. So over time, I've become an advocate for sharing financials with employees. I think over time it's become increasingly important, particularly when you consider the most recent statistic about employee engagement. And that is that 70% of all employees in the US today report feeling disengaged from their work. 70%. How productive do you think those 70% are? I would suggest marginal at best. Marginal at best. And I think one way, not the way, but one way to elevate employee engagement is to make them feel more important, make them more knowledgeable. And we can do that, I think, by sharing some of our financials.